I mean, yeah. I was saying to you guys before we started recording, I cannot express enough the difference in difficulty to me between swinging and polyamory. It is an exponential difference in difficulty.
Welcome to Normalizing Non-Monogamy, the podcast where we interview incredible people from across the entire spectrum of non-monogamy to hear their fascinating stories. We strive to bring guests on the show who have a healthy approach to non-monogamy. However, it's important to remember that everyone does it a little bit differently, and the views and opinions expressed by our guests do not necessarily reflect our own.
Additionally, we produce this show for entertainment purposes only. Please be aware that we aren't doctors or therapists. Consult a medical professional for anything regarding your health that you might learn about on the show. Enjoy!
Welcome to episode 166. We're Finn and Emma, and today we have an interview with Daev and Shannon. Both of them have explored non-monogamy a little bit in previous relationships, but together they are exploring polyamory, and they're pretty vulnerable about it being new and a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a great conversation, and it's probably part one of a multiple part series, because as they talk about, like, they're sort of at the beginning of the journey, at least in terms of the polyamory piece of it. They've done some more like casual swinging and that type of stuff. But yeah, the poly is new, and they're definitely growing into it. So it's a great conversation, and just thank you to them for reaching out and for coming on.
Before we jump into their interview, we do have a couple of quick announcements as normal. The first one is our Power of Witness collaboration with Catherine of Expansive Connection. You may have noticed the last few Fridays, another episode has been dropping, and these are a collaboration where we bring on 4 couples that have previously been on the show, and they sit and do a group coaching session with Catherine live on the podcast, and everyone else that's there, we witness what the group coaching session, and then we give them feedback. This is a very powerful and vulnerable experience for all of us, and Finn and I are involved as well. We give feedback at the end of each episode, and this coming Friday is episode 5 with Laura and Casey, and you can listen to it without the previous ones, but I highly encourage you to go back and start at the beginning and listen to the whole series. There's 2 more episodes to drop, this one on Friday, and then next one will be the takeaways next week.
Yeah, it was a great experience for both of us. It impacted us and our relationship pretty drastically that we didn't even expect. And
Definitely.
We didn't even really go through the full thing. We were just kind of there, being a part of it on the periphery. So definitely check it out. And if you have been listening to it, let us know what you think. We'd love to hear some feedback. You can send us a message over at normalizingnonmonogamy.com on the contact us page. Again, we'd love to hear what you think.
And just a quick reminder too, Catherine is running additional Power of Witness group coaching sessions this spring, so you can go
that are not part of our show. You don't have to come on our show and do this publicly for it.
Exactly. You can be involved and be a part of her group without being on our show. But go to our website, follow the links to go find out more information and sign up for that.
Yeah. A couple more quick things. A huge thank you and shout out to our Patreon supporters. We love you all, and you're amazing. Thank you for building an awesome community. A couple of dates for you. The women's group is February 10th. The men's group is February 16th. And our next Q&A or monthly discussion group will be February 24th.
All of those dates will be on our website, and also we'll talk more about Patreon in the outro.
If you're listening to this and you're like, what the hell is a Patreon? Well, we'll tell you what a Patreon is, but we're not going to do it now because we want you to get into the interview. But in short, it's a fantastic community that has kind of come up around the show, and we're super thrilled about it. So stay tuned for more on that.
Separate from Patreon, we also host monthly virtual meet and greets, and our next one is going to be on February 20th. That's a Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific or 9 p.m. Eastern. We'd love to have you join us. Again, we'll talk more about this in the outro, but if you want more information, these are only $10 to sign up. Go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com, and click on the meet and greet tab for more info.
Yeah, and the last thing we just wanted to throw out there, because it's been a pretty exciting revelation, the service that we use to do STD testing, we've used them for a few years, and you've probably heard us talk about it on the show in the past if you've listened, is a service called stdcheck.com. And there are links in the show notes and links in the podcast player to get over there and save $10 off of that. But the exciting news about that is they dropped their price from $199 to $139 for a 10-panel test, which is super, super affordable. And with our discount code, it'll be $129 instead of $139. So this is a service we use. We love it. It's really discreet and easy. You basically sign up online. You go into one of the national labs like LabCorp or Quest. You give them, blood and everything else that they need, and you're on your way usually in a few minutes. And it's just, it's fantastic. You don't have the awkward conversations with your doctor, or maybe you can't have this conversation with your doctor because it's like a family doctor. I don't know. Whatever it is, this is easier, at least we found, and we love it. So we just thought we'd share that awesome news on the price drop.
And with that,
yeah. And also, really quick, sorry, using those links the links to get the discount does support the show financially, and we appreciate that. And we like to be transparent about it. So
yes,
thank you in advance.
Thank you. And with that, let's jump into the show.
Well, welcome, Dave and Shannon and Daev, to the podcast. We're super excited to have you. We were talking to Shannon ahead. She said, we're better off if we'd have waited till midnight to do this, because that's when you really loosen up and start talking. But we're going to make the most of it. So thank you for being here, both of you.
And thanks for reaching out to us. I know, Dave, you sent us some voicemails on your road trip recently, and that was a delight to get. So thank you for reaching out, and we're excited to talk to you.
Yeah, well, I feel like I know you guys so well already because you spent so much time in my car with me driving across the country. It's actually a shame that we're doing this on headphones, because Banjo, my dog, would probably recognize your voices too if he could hear it. He listened to you a lot as well.
Well, it's good to have the canine fans as well.
Yes, exactly.
They're one of our biggest demographics. Well, again, thank you for being here. Do you mind each of you introducing yourselves for the listeners?
Hi, my name is Shannon. I reside in Denver with my wonderful partner, Daev. We are poly and open, and excited to be on this podcast that we've gotten the pleasure to listen to for the last month or so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Daev, and pretty much the same. Yeah. I mean, I guess as an overview of who we are in terms of our journey in ethical non-monogamy. Shannon mentioned that we're polyamorous, but we are very recently polyamorous. We have a long history with non-monogamy, but mostly, I guess you would categorize on the swinging side of the spectrum. And then we have recently gone through some challenges and decided to open ourselves up further and really just go for it all the way.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're exploring right now, and figuring that out together.
That's super exciting. And again, thank you for coming on to share it. And we're excited to sort of pick it all apart and learn about it. So we know a little bit that you both have sort of independent journeys that have brought you, before you came together a couple of years ago, you were sort of each exploring non-monogamy previous to your relationship.
Yeah.
I guess whichever one of you thinks makes the most sense
to go first.
Maybe share your background.
I'll start.
Okay.
So as I'm sure many bisexual-ish girls started off experimenting with, girlfriends and things like that. And then I had my
went to college.
I sure did. I had a really good time. And had my first actual relationship with a woman in 2016. And I was like the unicorn of a couple that was my first actual real relationship with a woman. I was more involved with her than I was with him. We fell in love. We dated for a year and a half until I decided to move from Philadelphia out here to Denver. And it was a kind of happenstance meeting. This could be very long-winded, and you might need to edit it because this is kind of going to be diarrhea of the mouth, and you're not going to believe the story.
I'm excited.
So I dated a guy for 5 years who lived in New York City while I was in North Jersey. He was a shithole of a boyfriend. I found out right after we broke up that his best friend from college was dating this woman, and her and I had met. And so it was like our boyfriends were best friends, and this girl was never very nice to me. And I was like, why doesn't this girl like me? Like, our boyfriends are best friends. Like, they went to college together. Everything should be copacetic and great. And after I break up with him, like 2 weeks later, I go to their house to hang out, and she tells me that like 3 years ago, before her and her current boyfriend got together, that her and my boyfriend hooked up for a whole entire weekend while they were out here in actually Denver seeing fish together. And she was never nice to me because she was like, I'm holding this huge secret from this girl. And so the night that she tells me this, I'm at her house with her now husband. And she tells me this, and I was like, my first reaction was like, oh, like he's an asshole. We should all fuck.
Just like to get revenge.
Revenge. Yeah, revenge.
Nice. That's the best kind of threesome.
And
is it? I've never had a revenge threesome. I feel like I'm missing out now. Wow.
And now, really quick, this was after college, right? This was after you moved out of Philadelphia. Said you. Oh, I'm sorry.
So I went to college from 2004 till 2010. As I said, I had a really good time in college. It took me a couple of years extra to graduate. And then I was living in Philly, pursuing a second career. And so, yeah, this was in 2016. So I graduated from college in 2010.
Okay.
And you had then dated that guy for the 5 years and then broke up with him and then met this couple. And that's where.
Well, I had met the couple, like, previously. I met the guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, so I was like, oh, we should all hook up. And that was like the beginning of our relationship. They ended up getting married. There was 4 people at the wedding, them 2, me, and the photographer. I picked out him and I went shopping. I got her all ready. It was like a very like throuple-y kind of situation. And then we broke up because I moved out to Denver.
So you've had sort of 2 throuple experiences, one in college and then one post-college.
Well, in college it was more not like throuple, but in college it was more just like making out with my girlfriends.
Yeah, I think she was just talking about college was when she started experimenting with women.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
So my first throuple experience was with this couple. The revenge throuple.
Yeah.
Which became a relationship.
Yeah, which became like a very serious relationship. Yeah. And like we still all love each other, but
But you didn't really have any like framework or previous like it was you just sort of like fell into it like you said by happenstance.
Mm-hmm.
Had you ever had a threesome before them?
No.
Okay.
No. But since then I've had a couple.
Yeah.
But you were just wanting to. It sounds like it just felt right. Like, what you didn't have any framework for this? How did you feel? How did you know?
So I'd always kind of had a crush on the gentleman, and his wife is pretty hot. So I don't know. It just felt natural. It felt right. She had never been with a girl before. I am 7 years younger than they are. Not like that matters, but I kind of felt like taking the lead. Yeah.
I think what's really cool about that story though is it lasted, it sounded like a number of years before and then you moved out here. So like by all measures, like, and you said you still love each other, like it was a success. Like your first go at it, like had a great time. It worked out really well. And it just sort of parted ways because of, geography.
Yes, I would say it was successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then you moved to Denver.
Mm-hmm. And then was pretty hetero, like just dated shithole dudes. I know how to pick them. No.
Her ex-boyfriends are all terrible. It gives me a ton of confidence because whenever I meet one of her ex-boyfriends, I'm always like, wow, you really upgraded. You really upgraded with me.
I did.
I was going to say, well, yeah, go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, Dave, if history is any going to repeat itself, you maybe need to check yourself. But I'm just giving you shit. I'm sure you're a good guy. We'll find out. We'll find out by the end of the interview.
Sure. All right. So then, should I go?
So that was my first like open experience.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So you dated a bunch of guys when you moved to Denver and like kind of dated around, and then you met Dave.
So Dave and I met on it's called Jam Cruise. It is a music festival on a boat. And
wait. I feel like I should tell my background before we get to.
Yeah, don't ruin the ending, Shannon.
I'm a little eager.
All right, let's hear it, Dave.
Okay, so I had a lot of sporadic experiences in my youth. I think the first threesome I had, I was actually a senior in high school, but the first like really notable one that stuck with me was with an older married couple that I knew, and I was probably 20, 22, 23 years old, and traveling around the country, seeing my favorite band, being a nomadic hippie, living that lifestyle, and staying with some friends that I knew through the music scene in Pittsburgh, and they kind of seduced me. They had an open marriage. They were non-monogamous. I think actually, I mean, and we're talking about early 2000s, so kind of ahead of the curve of as much more that we know about non-monogamy now, and as much as more as it's out there now, 15 years later, 18 years later, whatever it is. But they were polyamorous before it was hip to be polyamorous, and kind of seduced me, and had a couple of threesomes with them, a man and a woman. And they were like my earliest role models of how non-monogamy could work and be successful. And I really took that with me, and it stuck with me, even though it was many years before I had my own opportunity to really experience it successfully. I always looked at them as a model, because they're still married to this day, so they're very successful. Fast forward years later, I ended up in a relationship, in a monogamous relationship, for 7 years. Very early in the relationship, I expressed a couple of times that I had this interest in exploring non-traditional relationship models, and was just pretty much shut down, every time that I brought it up. So I stopped bringing it up, and I kind of spent many years feeling really trapped in this monogamous relationship before I finally got up the guts to end it.
Break up the engagement?
Yeah, break off the engagement after being engaged for like 4 years without getting married. Just putting it off and putting it off. So after that, I met my ex-wife, and I knew that I didn't want to. I knew that the next serious relationship that I got into, I wanted to at least have the option of exploring other things and figuring out what could work. So when I met my ex-wife, she was kind of in the same boat. She had been married previously. She had a daughter from that previous marriage. She was bisexual, and she'd had a lot of bisexual and threesome experiences when she was younger, before she met her ex-husband. And then in that relationship, she was not allowed to explore that at all. Her ex-husband was not interested in letting her bring other women to the bedroom, was not interested in letting her explore that at all. So she pushed that down for years in that marriage. So at the time that we met, we were kind of on the same page of like, hey, fuck monogamy. Let's, I really like you. I want to be with you, but like, what can we do that's different? How can we figure out how to make this work in a different way? So from the very beginning, we explored non-monogamy with threesomes and with other people, eventually moving on to other couples. So we were together 3.5 years, and we had a lot of experiences together, but always together. The marriage ended not having anything to do with our exploration or our non-monogamy, but she was bipolar and an alcoholic, and I didn't realize the depth of her alcoholism when we got together. And it, after we were married, it became apparent, and things really, fell apart. So then after that, after my divorce, not too long after my divorce, was when Shannon and I met.
Jam Cruise.
Yes.
Do you guys know about Jam Cruise?
Have you ever heard of it?
We do now.
And do you want to talk about it? It's the coolest thing in the world. I'll talk to anybody about it all day long.
It's the best party in the world. Maybe if, I don't know, from what I've heard from you guys, I don't know, maybe with the exception of Desire.
I was going to say, yeah, that's a tall order, but it sounds like a hell of a party, and thank you both for sharing, the background and opening up about that. It's wonderful to hear that you both have actually had pretty successful non-monogamous sort of foundations laid, which is exciting.
Yeah. So then we met under interesting circumstances because we met on Jam Cruise. I was probably 6 months out from my marriage failing. In fact, going on Jam Cruise, I had a cabin booked for my wife and I, and then divorced, started dating, and I kind of had this in mind the whole time that I was dating right after my divorce that I needed to meet somebody to take on these trips that I had planned, that I had all these spaces, because there were multiple trips. I actually went straight to Jamaica from Jam Cruise to see another band, and I had spots there for my ex-wife. So I met this woman.
Where'd you meet her?
Well, I mean, we have like
the internet.
Well, we have.
Just kidding.
Plenty of people.
I know.
Really.
No, I'm just.
I mean, technically, so we have like 100.
He was fishing to find a chick to take.
No, we have like 100 common friends. So I've seen this girl on Facebook for a long time through our mutual friends, and I reached out. So yes, technically, I met her through the internet because I reached out to her on Facebook and asked her out. But at the time, I think it was. I thought that it was the best situation for me because I had just gotten out of a marriage, and I thought that a long distance relationship would take the pressure off because it couldn't, by definition, it just couldn't get too serious. So I was dating her, and I took her on Jam Cruise, and we met Shannon, and we all hooked up on Jam Cruise, and that was like a really go ahead.
I'm just going to pause you. Can you explain Jam Cruise for those people who don't know?
The Cliff Notes version, Shannon. I know you're excited.
So Jam Cruise is a music festival on a boat where there's probably 25 bands that play on a cruise ship, and they each have like their own headlining spot or whatever, different schedule. But then there's like super jams and late night jams, and all the musicians that are on the boat are staying on the boat. So everybody plays together and hangs out together. And it's not a cheap thing. So like everybody that's on the boat is kind of like established, if you will. It's like if you've been to a music festival, you see all like the gross hippies, like
people that are passed out in the middle of the day. You don't get rookie partiers on Jam Cruise. Everybody knows what they're doing. They're professionals.
But so this particular year, so I've been for this past year was my 4th time. This was Dave's 11th time, but my good friends who I met on my first Jam Cruise actually planned their wedding, and they, as a thank you for planning their wedding, they brought me on Jam Cruise the year that we met. And so I'm in line with my 2 good friends, and they are like, "Oh, this is our realtor." Like Dave had just sold them a house. And I was like, "Oh, who's this dude with this hot pink hair?" It's like literally it's hot pink.
I had dyed my hair hot pink
because it was like there's different theme nights on Jam Cruise, and one of the nights is like a color night, and it was pink this year, and his hair was hot pink, and I was like, "Who is this fool?" But my best friends were introducing me, so maybe I should give him the time of day. And that's when him and I met in line on the way onto the boat. Him with his hot pink hair. It was like shaved in on the sides. It was so bad. So bad.
Yeah. She acts like she was like, "Oh, maybe I should give this guy a chance." Meanwhile, later that night, she like searches me out, comes up to me on the pool deck, and just and starts telling me about her Brazilian that she had just gotten before the trip, and I'm like, "Oh, this girl is into it." She likes to say, "Oh yeah, I was introduced to Dave," and I was like, "Who the hell is this crazy weirdo with hot pink hair?" But then literally several hours later, she came up to me on the pool deck. I didn't even remember her. She had to remind me, "Yeah, don't you remember I was bothering you to give me a pin that you had made?" And hang
on. So on Jam Cruise, people make like memorabilia. So it's like, there's different theme nights, and he was giving out pins to my friends, and he gave me a sticker, which clearly is like way less expensive.
And that's
And
a slap in the face.
way less expensive.
And that's
and
a slap in the face.
For
I
real.
had made hundreds of stickers to give out, and then a very few number of pins
So
were for friends, and she wasn't a friend. I didn't.
So
know.
I was giving shit about trying to give me a sticker, not a pin.
Yeah.
And it was my first Brazilian wax, and it was kind of uncomfortable afterwards. So I was talking to anybody that would listen about how uncomfortable it was.
Yeah, and
also giving him
from
shit.
my perspective, I mean, this hot girl is coming up to me on the pool deck and immediately telling me about her Brazilian. I'm like, this girl wants it, it's on.
This girl deserves a pin. Is basically what I was getting at.
So she got a pin. Is the moral of that story? It's
So your first threesome was a revenge threesome, and your second one was for a pin.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Your standards are high, Shannon. I love it.
Can you tell everyone that's listening is that I'm like way hotter than that sounds? Please.
That's perfect. Okay, so you give her the pin. You wind up. It sounds like you wound up having a threesome. With
it was like that was actually like the last night of the cruise. I spent the whole week like trying to facilitate the threesome because as I said, when she came up to me that night, I was like, the girl I was with on the cruise, we had talked before getting on the cruise about, hey, we should find somebody to have a threesome with because we were very new together, and I was wanting to make sure that she was good with non-monogamy, or else it wasn't even going to work. So when I met Shannon, I was immediately like, oh, well, this is the girl. I've just got to make this happen. And there was one night, a couple nights into the cruise, that the girl that I was with got sick, and she was sick in bed. And found Shannon.
Can I refresh your memory?
Sure.
We hooked up on like the night before.
That's what I'm saying.
Then she got sick.
Because we were doing that. So we kind of made out. That's right. I forgot. So when I was trying to facilitate the threesome and I introduced Shannon and the woman that I had brought on the cruise, and we all hung out in my room. So we all made out in our room a little bit, and then the next night my girlfriend got sick and she stayed in. So then Shannon and I ended up going to this party in the piano suite, and ended up in the hot tub and making out together, and then by the last night of the cruise, we had a threesome.
And it was with your girlfriend. She was basically, all of this had sort of been, like you said, talked about. Like you were both open to exploring this openly. Like it wasn't a closed dynamic. No,
yeah, but so this and then that gets us really close to where I think an important part of our journey, of our story, was the learning experience, at least for me. Because I take it very seriously. I in my naivete, I screwed up. Basically we ended up in this throuple scenario where the woman I was dating in LA was coming and visiting almost every weekend for a couple of months, coming to Denver. But Shannon lives in Denver. So it was very naive to think that this was going to work out as a throuple situation where the woman that I was dating in LA was fine and great with us all hanging out together, but not at all okay with me hanging out with Shannon when she wasn't around. And so that's, that was the learning experience with not recognizing ahead of time that was going to create issues, being in the same city and wanting to spend time together without the other person.
Yeah. That's a hard, especially like it sounds like your background with this other woman wasn't years and years of trust and foundation. It was sort of a new relationship. And then it was sort of thrust into this really sort of like varsity level dynamic. What you were trying to go for was a difficult maneuver, especially for a new relationship.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I would say an impossible maneuver, really. But so, it was a learning experience. I ended up, we got to the point where we spent so much time together, all three of us, that once Shannon and I spent any time together without the other woman being in town, it really quickly became apparent that obviously we had a lot of chemistry, just the two of us. And, it wasn't long before I realized I had to break up with the other woman so that we could be together without going behind anybody's back.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so that sort of takes us, is that sort of, you guys started dating then officially, the two of you, like around 2 years ago or so?
Well, it was almost 2 years ago that we met on Jam Cruise, and then there was like a 2-month period where we were not officially dating because we were only hanging out when the other woman was in town.
Right.
So not quite 2 years. It'll be 2 years in January that we met, and then 2 years, I guess, in March that we started dating officially.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so when you came together, was the agreement we were going to go at this from the non-monogamous open perspective?
At the very beginning?
Yeah, I mean, that was how we met, and we both had an interest in that. We both didn't really, it was fun for us, obviously, that we met under the circumstances of having fun in group scenarios with other people. So it was a very smooth transition. There was not really a question of being monogamous, I don't think, ever with us.
And I feel like in the beginning, like you had the great pleasure of, like in my mind, like seeking out new relationships or new sexual hookups was like through my girlfriends.
Yeah.
And I have like really hot girlfriends.
She has some really hot girlfriends, and that was
so Dave lucked out in the beginning, and I was like, dude, this is not what this is like. You're fucking lucky. Like I know I'm really pretty, but my girlfriends are like way prettier than I am.
No, that's
and they had not been with women other than like a makeout at a frat party situation before.
Yeah, we went through a period of time, and when we first were dating, that we had a lot of great, really, really sexy experiences with. We basically seduced all of Shannon's friends.
Sorry, not sorry. And I know they're going to be listening to this. Ladies, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, ladies. We love you.
And I was just curious. Yeah, that's
now?
what I was going to ask. Like,
yes, absolutely. As we should. So, and I always, and I don't find it surprising that we are, because I mean, that wasn't, because we did the same thing, my ex-wife and I, like we would sleep with a lot of our friends. And to me, that's great. Like I hear from people a lot that they don't want to do that because what if it screws up the friendship? And to me, mature adult people, like if everybody's on board, there's no reason why it should screw up the friendship. Like, let's all just be adults about it and have fun together. We're all, it's easier that way when you're already friends with somebody, to me, because you already have a base relationship, that sex is just one more thing when it's introduced, that you can add it or take it away, and it doesn't, and that's where we're at. We've taken it away. We don't have sex with any of these friends anymore.
But when I hang out with them without him, he's like, "Did you fuck last night?" I'm like, "No, I didn't. I swear." I mean, I tried, but didn't.
But no, we had a lot of great nights, and we had a lot of fun, and we moved past that with those people, but we're still friends with them, and and I think that's the way that it should be.
So where did it go from there?
So then from there, we have this dynamic where about every 6 months, Shannon kind of freaks out and breaks up with me.
So this, I need to preface this with an underlying of the reason I moved to Colorado is because I was living back east and I'm applying to master's and doctorate programs. And I was living in Philadelphia and applied to 6 programs and didn't get into any of them. So I moved to Colorado because my lease was up and I wanted to explore new situations, but my plan was still to go back east, to go back and pursue further education. So that is like an underlying thing. So
Sure.
When we have broken up, it's because I'm like, oh, well, we're going to break up anyway. I'm going back to school, I'm leaving you to go back to school anyway. So that's been like an underlying thing. Yeah. So why even continue this? If there's any bump in the road, I'm like, well, I'm going to be leaving soon. So like, let me go like sow my seeds.
So just a little over a year ago. So we had been, probably after the first 6 months of us being seriously together, the two of us. We broke up one time, and then very quickly got back together. And this is our pattern. Shannon breaks up with me. We went through, but yeah, that is part of the story. We broke up, and then we decided to get back together and try to be totally open. I think maybe at first we were just thinking, like, I don't even think we were thinking we were getting back together. I think we were just thinking, let's just be booty calls. Let's just be friends with benefits. And, but I mean, that just never works for us. We've tried it a couple of times, but we're too much in love. And we went through maybe a couple of weeks where we were trying to be just friends with benefits and just be totally open to seeing other people. And we totally failed at it. Shannon hooked up with this guy in a threesome with this other girl and this guy. And then I went to California to see some concerts, and I made out with two women, and
old women that I should not be jealous of. Older
women that that I've known for a long time, that have always been older than me, that got into a late night conversation. No, you shouldn't have been jealous of them, because they're not. Yeah. Anyway, I was struggling with my own jealousy about the threesome that she had, but I think I was being a lot more successful dealing with that jealousy and like letting her do her thing. And I was like, okay, well then I can do my thing. And I just made out with a couple of girls in San Francisco. And women, older women.
They're in their 60s.
They're like, no, they're not in their 60s. That's an exaggeration. One of them is probably 50 and the other one's probably like 47.
Okay.
Hey, no judgment here.
No, not at all. I'm just saying I shouldn't have felt jealous, but I did, because I was insecure about.
She got really jealous, and when I came home,
age matter.
When I came home, we talked about it, and we decided we had to rein it in. We were not ready for that level of openness, and so then I think we spent the next 6 months probably not fooling around with anybody else, and really just focusing on ourselves and our own relationship. Mm-hmm. And then we went, and then and then probably around last Jam Cruise, so a year after we had met, last January, pre-COVID, by a couple of months, we started talking about opening up again to where we had been before we had crashed and burned by trying to open up too much, and just start bringing in other people again. And then we started doing that again. Instead of just, we started to branch out to other couples, which was something that I don't think Shannon really had experience with, as being a part of a couple and switching full swap with another couple. Mm-hmm. And we had, we met some great people. We had some great times doing that. And it was really kind of like, okay, great, we're back, and we're back at a new level. We're doing things we haven't done together before. We're being very successful. This is great. And then COVID hit, and we had to quit all of that again. Mm-hmm. And then we went through another 6 months where we were.
So, and then back to like me thinking I was going back to school, mm-hmm. and moving back east. So my lease was up in April, and I moved in here in April into Dave's 1-bedroom condo. He was living in a 5-bedroom house before. He still owns it, but is now renting it out. But so we moved in here, and I was supposed to live here for like a month, and COVID hit. And so my plan to move back east and be my sister's maid of honor and live with her in her home in Philly with her fiance for free, so I could save money, so I could go back to school and get my doctorate and not have so many loans and all this shit. Everything just hit the fan. So I was feeling like pressured and out of control and unable to do what my plan was. I'm a planner. And kind of like freaked out. And my best friend from high school, who lives in Denver, had a room available, way out of my price range, but I was like, I can do that for like a couple months. And so Dave and I broke up in the end of July, beginning of August. And we're separated for like a month.
Almost 2 months.
And then,
because I think it was like mid-July. What, didn't we go to Aspen like July 17th or something? It was
after that. Yeah. And then realized that like we wanted to be together, and it was like good for us. But now we live in like separate houses and can cohabitate so much better because
we have our own space to get away to.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was moving into a 1-bedroom place together was never, a great idea. And especially then when COVID hit and it's like, oh, you can't even go stay at a friend's house overnight to get away just for a night. We were just on top of each other for all of this time. It was a recipe for disaster for sure. But yeah, we were. I mean, so then we were apart for almost 2 months, and then I mean, my version of how we got back together was not that we realized that we really wanted to be together.
What was it?
Shannon started trying to booty call me as she.
Hang on, can you hear us? Because I can't hear you.
We haven't talked.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, Emma's fake laughing over here. She's like,
no, I'm great. I'm just enjoying the story.
Okay, I'm just making sure that
she's feeling like you're laughing, but we can't hear you.
Yeah.
So Shannon started trying to booty call me. She started sending me like nudes one night.
Topless. I don't say nudes. Like topless.
She sent me. Well, I mean, you could have been nude. I don't know. It was just the upper half. She started sending me these topless photos,
and they were
trying
just
to booty
to you,
call
no
me.
one else.
Oh no! She told me she sent them to. She also sent them to her best friend, who was one of the people that we hooked up with back in the day.
So you end up seducing him back in. You reel him back in after 2 months.
Yeah, well, and I mean, so I resisted for like 2 days, and then I was like, okay, fine, but we need to talk about this. I had started seeing a couple of other people in the interim. I don't like to be alone. I mean, that's a problem that I have. I mean, I understand that, it's not a good thing. It's something I need to work on in myself because I have a really hard time being alone. But in that time I had, met this married woman on Field that it was like, perfect scenario for a guy on the rebound because there was no commitment. She was married. I was just a hookup for her. And then also dating a woman that I've known for 20 years, and we had just never been single at the same time before. When I had a lot of doubt about Shannon's intention and how serious she was about wanting to get back together. So I was like, if we're going to be hanging out again together, we need, to be different than we were before, because I'm not feeling secure enough in this relationship to give up the other people that I'm seeing. And on her side, I think that she was feeling like, well, a big part of my fear and why I keep breaking up with you is because of the commitment and not being able to do other things or see other people. So that made us decide to, okay, well, let's try this again. We had tried it like a year ago, to be totally open, to be not just swingers and not just having group sex with people, but let's be able to date on our own. So that's what we're really, trying to do now. And we're reading books and we're working through each situation as it comes up, and it is hard.
Mm-hmm. And at first it was very like, okay, Mondays. And so I play pool. And Mondays at my bar is free pool, where it was. So I was okay. So Mondays I get to go do whatever I want. Also Sundays, because I like to watch football, and he's a 49ers fan. That's for the birds. So I was trying to schedule my free days around my, hobbies.
Yeah.
And was realizing that okay, well, other people that will be dating don't work around my Sunday football, Monday free pool at my bar situation. And was like, oh wow, this is an adult kind of situation where we have to talk about things and work things out. But I feel like it was kind of working.
Yeah. And I was putting up a lot. I had, kind of forgotten about that until she started to say it, because this was just 2 months ago, that I was being very adamant of listen, we're not going to spend more than 3 nights a week together. If we're trying to do this, I'm only letting you back in so much, and I've got to keep you at arm's length. the rest of the time, like no more than 3 nights a week. But we're like, we're hanging out.
I'd come over and he would make me like come pick up the parking pass. I'm like, dude, I know I'm the only bitch using this parking pass.
You weren't at that time though. I had to have that parking pass for my married girl, and
she could have parked on the street. But it was one of those things where I was getting upset that I was like, you're gonna make me have like come into your house or like.
So this was back in August-ish that you
September.
got back, September that you got back together.
Yeah.
And so just out of curiosity, do you, at this point, are you sort of viewing this as a non-hierarchical kind of thing, or are you sort of viewing it as Shannon and Daev are primary partners who then have the freedom to date other people?
Yeah, but I think that we have a lot to learn about that, because I think, the more that I learn, I understand why people are relationship anarchists, right? I understand some of the issues. So yes, a lot of people, a lot of polyamorous people preach that having a relationship hierarchy doesn't work, right? They are relationship anarchists. That's kind of the opposite view in polyamory.
Okay, I get that.
And we definitely have a hierarchy. We definitely see each other as each other's primary partners. But I can, as we learn more about this and experience it more, I can definitely see how that could be difficult for some of the people that you date, right? Like sometimes, it's got to be hard to present to someone. It's hard to present to someone like, hey, I really like you and I'd like to see you and I'd like you to be a part of my life and have a relationship with you, but you're always going to come second.
Third.
To what?
Me first,
banjo?
then me first, then you. And no. So I just had a really interesting one of my first separate relationships that Dave has actually never even met this partner of mine. Him and I are friends from our billiards team, and we became very close. And we're like, Dave would always be like, "Oh, did you guys fuck tonight?" I'm like, "No, we just made out. And it was very kind of PG. And I very recently found out that there was a reason for it, and it was he was taken advantage of, and I was not aware. And he has had at a young age, and he has had very few partners, and he is well aware of my situation and our situation, and I just found out within the last week that of his situation, and was like, why are you willingly signing yourself up to be with someone like me in a relationship that you would be the second, or you're not the primary partner? He was
having a lot of issues. He was saying that he was good with the situation and he understood it because Shannon was being totally honest with him and communicating everything to him. And he was, telling her, yeah, no, that's, I'm good with that. I understand. I'm fine with that. But he was exhibiting behavior that was showing that he was definitely not okay with it. He was very much feeling left out and not like he was getting enough attention. And so we just had our first experience of having to, Shannon having to break up with somebody.
And he's my really good friend. And it was a type of situation I wouldn't even have gotten involved in with a friend, and was just so shocked of the lack of experience, or not like that matters, but the fact that there was a reason he wanted to play that role. And it was because there was no responsibility of having to be the primary person to provide all of that. And
that's what he thought he wanted, but when it came down to it, he really couldn't handle that.
Yeah. And it was just kind of crazy because I just dealt with that between yesterday and today of and it was one of the situations where it's I'm seeking someone that wants to have the not secondary at all, but somebody that is also as busy. And
we're so obviously, obviously you guys, we're figuring this out. We are a work in progress.
Yeah, no, and I mean, thank you both for the vulnerability on that, because I think
it's important to highlight that's the that's a really key part of where you're at right now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah, you're in the middle of it, and I think there's probably a handful of people listening saying, that's why you don't fuck your friends, right? And I think there's two sides to that coin, right? Like you had the amazing experience, and I'm not saying don't fuck your friends. I'm saying there is that risk of it can be super amazing, and then you can wind up in this situation where if it doesn't work out like you wanted,
and like,
Well,
and,
I think-
and hang on, and this being said, like him and I are friends, but like we are like he was on my pool league team, like billiards. We hung out every Tuesday,
right?
For 12 weeks for twice a year for 2 years in a row. He's not
Right.
like my good friend, but I
Right.
knew him on like kind of like a social aspect, but now it's like the amount of respect I have for him because I only know him in that regard. It's not like he's one of my girlfriends who I've seen through every situation, thick and thin kind of thing.
Right.
But also, I mean, I think to your point, Finn, I think that highlights one of the many challenges and differences between polyamory and just being non-monogamous in a purely sexual way, right?
Mhm.
Right.
It's one thing to just fuck your friends when everybody knows that it's just sex,
Right.
right? That's totally different than starting to date your friends and then having it not work out and having to break up with them, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's I mean, you introduce emotion and actual relationships beyond just, hey, we're all just fucking, we're all just having a good time, and now to, oh, I'm in a relationship, but it's an open relationship. I'm going to date you and hang out with you. It's a totally different level of challenges.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And I think, like you said, like you guys are right in it right now. You're back together a couple of months, and you've done non-monogamy in various ways, sort of all of the ways almost at this point. And but I think what's exciting, right, is like you said, you're reading the books, you're listening to the podcasts, you're really diving in and trying to figure out how to make it work. And right, like you're still, and we all are, right, you're still learning the right terms and the different ways that people do this. And is hierarchy good for us, or is relationship anarchy, or somewhere in between? Like there's so many different ways to approach it that, like,
Well, and it sounds like you two aren't afraid to try different things. Like that's obviously your history is part of that. Like
Sure.
you're willing to be like, okay, let's try this. If it doesn't work, we can adjust and change direction.
Yeah.
Well, I've always said, going back to my experiences with my ex-wife, that not swinging or non-monogamy, any level of non-monogamy, when friends ask us about it, I always say it's basically just a constant process of trial and error. You're just constantly trying things and figuring out, oh, hey, you know what? Actually, that doesn't work for me. It's a constant process of trial and error, and then communication.
Wrong hole? No, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Trial and error, and then communicating about it and figuring out, okay, is that something that we can adjust and make that work better, or is it something that we're just not into at all?
Yeah.
So I think those are like the two pillars of non-monogamy, is just trial and error and communicate.
Yeah. Do you see your relationship going in a certain direction, other than just trying to continue to navigate this being more on the poly side of things?
I mean, I think that for us, a big part of why we are striving to make this work and figure this out is because, like Shannon said, since we met, it has always been hanging over our heads that we have an expiration date. We have a time limit. At some point she's going to move back to the East Coast, and I'm not. I can visit, but I'm not leaving Denver.
But you hang on. But you make it sound like I'm going back to the East Coast because like that's where I'm going to end up. No, I'm going back to the East Coast because I am going to be. You're going to have to call me next time you guys see me. You're going to have to call me Dr. Shannon. Sorry. And that's why that's the case. And I think that's part of the reason that this has been such like a deal kind of thing, is because we know that we're not going to be residing in the same place for
and we love each other very much. I mean, we want to be together, and we want to find a way to make it work. I wasn't trying to say that we weren't going to be, that there was anything.
I was just trying to plug the whole document thing.
Gotcha. But yeah, I mean, just that it's always been hanging over our heads that at some point, if we are going to be together, it's going to have to be long distance. And we're both very sexual people. Obviously, I don't think either of us has any illusions that we could have a long distance relationship and have it be monogamous. That would just never work. So,
right.
And also group sex is really fun.
Well, and that's, yeah, I mean, that's what it's always been about for me. You know, when people ask, I mean, for me, I just like to say, you know, my kink is group sex. That's just what I'm into. That's what I think is more fun than anything else. So, yeah.
I feel like we haven't talked about like kinky sex now. I feel like we talked about like all this like not dramatic, but like democratic relationship shit.
But that's okay. And
I don't think people talk too much about the details of their kinky sex on their podcast. I haven't heard too much of that.
Oh no, I was talking about ours. I don't care about theirs.
No, it's good, and I think. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm just half kidding and just like enjoy just making people laugh about.
We're a couple tequila shots in. We're starting to loosen up now.
You're fine. No, I think it's great, and I think like, and what we were thinking is maybe would be a really good option here is like, because you guys are sort of at the beginning / right in the heat of it, and maybe like getting close to like leaving it there, and we can bring it back, you know, in a year or 2 years and hear like how has it evolved, because I think it sounds like, you know, you've learned a lot even just in the last 2 months, and that in the next few months and year is going to be a lot of growth and learning and experiences that would be really, really exciting to hear about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I agree. I mean, we've definitely learned a lot in a short amount of time. Mm-hmm. I was saying to you guys before we started recording, I cannot express enough the difference in difficulty to me between swinging and polyamory. It is an exponential difference in difficulty.
Yeah.
That I've become very, very accustomed to not feeling jealousy in you know, many different situations. But you know, I mean, like we've said, we both have a good amount of experience in non-monogamous situations, and I have been through a lot where I've become very accustomed to like, oh, it's not a big deal to watch the woman that I love getting fucked by another man. It's not a big deal. You know, it's great. It's fun. It's you know, I love, you know, I'm trying to figure out how to actually introduce it into the vocabulary on a regular basis, but the word compersion, right? It's such, you know, it's so good. Yeah. But I believe in that, you know, that feeling of being happy, watching your partner experiencing pleasure, whether it's from you or from somebody else. But the level of jealousy that comes up when you're just wondering what they're doing, when you're not around to see it and to watch it, or even just be in the next room, it's crazy. It's really difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
So this weekend, for the first time, we're going to see a couple that we have seen together, but we're going to see separately. So I will get to see the gentleman, and mm-hmm. You're going to hang out with his gorgeous wife mm-hmm. separately.
Yeah. Which
shall be interesting.
Yeah, we're going to try that, because the last time we hung out with them together, we kind of separated for a little while. We were doing, you know, different room stuff. And I think we both had connections with them individually that made us feel like, and they're beyond us. You know, I feel like we have a lot to learn from them, actually, because they have been this level of open for a while, where they date separately. They date together, like they've been dating us together for a while, but they seem to really have a good handle on dating separately. So yeah. we're gonna split up and go on completely separate dates with them and see what we can learn from that.
Yeah,
that's super exciting, and I think, like, again, we're both like super excited to see where you two take this.
We might not even have to wait.
Yeah, we don't have to wait a year. Maybe 6 months we'll be able to get an update. So I think, I mean, if you guys are okay, I think we'd love to leave it there as a sort of to be continued, because I think it's really laid
the groundwork
for what's to come. And I think we're excited, and I imagine people listening are excited to see how it works out.
And where you go.
Yeah, thanks.
As am I. I mean, I'm just excited as.
It's gonna be interesting no matter what. We're in for it, and we're gonna see you guys at. Are you guys going to Desire next year? Because I told her I decided we're going.
Yeah, next year. I don't know. Next year we are
assuming there's a vaccine and we're all safe to do stuff like that again.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Everything's a little up in the air. So yeah, I would love to. I mean, it's amazing.
It's amazing, but we'll see. We're kind of playing it by ear right now.
Yeah. And then maybe Jam Fest 2023 for us.
It's called Jam Cruise.
Oh, Jam Cruise. Well, I guess it's going to be hard.
No, it's totally fun.
It's going to be hard for me to find if I don't know the fucking name.
I have to say, this was really nice, guys. Thank you so much. As I said, I was nervous, but you guys are like super, like, natural.
We're all right.
Yeah, you're okay.
I think it has a lot to do with the not wearing pants while you interview people.
Yeah, you weren't supposed to see that, so that's.
You start the interview like this, and I'm like, he's either jerking off or.
Nope, I'm on a bouncy ball. So, well, thank you. Thank you both. Yeah, for your vulnerability and for opening up and sharing and reaching out. And we're excited to hear where it goes.
Yeah, have a great rest of your night.
Yeah, you guys
as well.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah.
And we're back. Thank you so much to Dave and Shannon for reaching out and being so vulnerable with us and just sharing everything you did. We are super excited to get your story out there.
Yeah, and to hear how it evolves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. There's so much more coming.
As we said at the beginning, we were going to talk a little bit more about Patreon and what that is. So we'll do that really quickly here. And again, just a thank you to everyone maybe who's still listening that is a Patreon member. Your support of the show is so appreciated, and we love you all. But basically what Patreon is it's a platform that allows content creators like podcasters and musicians to get monthly contributions or pledges to support the work that they do. And we've used ours to build a community around the show, in which we do, as we said in the intro, we do like a women's call and we do a men's call. We do monthly discussions where people come together on Zoom and just support each other and help each other through anything that's going on. And we also have a MeWe chat, which is like a chat room app with probably close to 100 members in it right now. And it's just a daily, something you can jump in there if you need something to pick you up, or you have something going on, or maybe you want to share something amazing going on. People are always sharing things, helping each other out. This week it's been all about the snowstorm out east. So it's just, it's a fun place to hang out with other people who are open-minded like yourself. So it's just a couple of bucks to join, as cheap as $2. And check it out. If it's not for you, you can always cancel. It doesn't hurt our feelings. But if you're looking for community right now, it's something that we've really found a lot of benefit in this last year and just has meant a lot to us. So thank you.
And also wanted to quickly mention that our next virtual meet and greet is in February, and these are separate from our Patreon. This is open to anyone who wants to sign up. It's only $10. And what we do is we get everyone in a big Zoom room. We do a few icebreakers, and then we break into small breakout rooms in Zoom, and you get to have a talking point and get to meet people for a handful of minutes. And then you get back into the big room. We scramble the rooms and you go back out and meet new people. So we've been doing these for a while now, since last May, I think, and they are amazing. They've been growing every month, and we love this time with all of you. So we'd love for you to join us. Check it out. They're really low pressure too. You can share as little or as much as you would like to. So
they're not like a sexually charged
no
event. It's a way to get to know people, and people from all across the spectrum of non-monogamy and everything. We have quads, triads, couples, singles, so it's open to everybody. We'd love to see you there.
Yes, for more information, go to our website, normalizingnonmonogamy.com. There you can find meet and greet information up at the top. You can also find the button for Patreon. You can contact us, leave us a voicemail, write us an email. We'd love to hear from you. And you can also see podcast show notes for all the episodes.
A lot of stuff.
It was.
Yeah, you were like one of the people at the end of a car commercial.
I know, just ticking through
disclaimers.
Ticking through. Next week, well, let me pause and say,
take a breath.
This Friday we have a drop for Power of Witness, which I mentioned in the intro, so be on the lookout for that. And then next week we have our normal scheduled interview with Anna and Groot.
Yeah, another amazing discussion, as you would expect, as we expect, and we will see you in a week.
Bye everyone, thanks for listening.